launched the Africa Governance Report 2023 in Nairobi on unconstitutional changes of government, which was adopted by the Assembly of Heads of State in February this year. The primary purpose of the Africa Governance Report is to provide relevant, accurate and informative assessments and reports on selected key governance areas in all 55 member states of the African Union. The continent has been hit by a phenomenon of unconstitutional changes of government, which led to the launch of this particular report. Now, speaking at the event, Treasury CS Njuguna Ndongo said Kenya plans to cascade the Africa peer review mechanism to the counties in an effort to entrench tenets of good governance.
Kenya, of course, prides itself as one of the foremost members of the African peer review mechanism, and we do believe that the peer review process seeks to foster good governance by adopting policies, standards, practices that will lead to political stability, that will also lead to high economic growth, because you cannot have any economic activity without political stability. But more importantly, we are all looking for sustainable development and accelerated sub-regional and continental integration through sharing of experiences and, of course, reinforcement of success stories and even best practices that aims to individualize the APRM even for better achievements and track records. We do believe that those are very, very important indicators or maybe achievements that we would like to go for and to achieve.
Well, that story ushers us into the next conversation we're set to have, all to do with TVET education in the region. What role does it play? Is it able to, plug in the job deficit we have in the country? If we look at some of the skills that are impacted upon the young minds who go to TVET institutions in the country and across the region. And to help me deliberate on these matters, I'm joined by two esteemed guests. Allow me to introduce them just briefly. I'll start with Boniface Kamau, who's the ABE Global Manager in Kenya and Tanzania. Asante sana for your time and welcome.
Thank you, Jesse, for having us this afternoon.
It's a pleasure to have you with us right here. And equally joined by Carissa Carrington-Nunes, who's the Director of ABE Global Africa and in the Caribbean. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, in Kenya we say Asante. And then you reply Karibu.
Karibu.
There you go. You're partly Kenyan now.
I'm getting it.
Exactly. So we're having this conversation, and I'll start with you, Boniface, because in the 2023-2024 budget, Kenya has set aside 627 billion for education. And I'm pretty sure this TVET falls under the education sector right here in the country. So let's start with a status update in terms of the uptake, in terms of TVET institutions in the country. Are we taking up more students? Perhaps you can give us a case example of your institution as well, so we can definitely see where we are as a country and a region, including Tanzania.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. I must say that in Africa, generally, we are still quite skewed towards accumulating academic accolades as opposed to going for specific professional skills. But the curve is changing. It is quite wavy over the years. If you remember, in the 70s and the 80s, we used to have village polytechnics. And slowly coming to 2000, we had an exponential increase in universities across the country and many other nations in Africa. And at that point, people went for degrees and academic papers. Currently, we have seen a shift. And especially here in Kenya, when you look at our county government structure, we have the vocational institutions almost in every sub-county. We also have the TVET institutions, both private and public ones, that are really doing well. When you look at other nations, for instance, Tanzania, they have a robust TVET education program where the government has come up with a curriculum and they are supporting it in terms of funding and enabling students to take it up. So the ground is changing. And I believe at this moment, when the government has allocated a bigger budget towards education, and that portion goes to TVET education, it would see a bigger uptake of the TVET, of the number of people that are taking up for the vocational education.
Yeah, that's definitely well noted. And perhaps let's go to an even bigger scale, apart from the region. Equally, what exactly is happening in the Caribbean? And we have you to perhaps explain to us in terms of what exactly is ABE all about? Kindly start with that, and how the curriculum has fit into a progressive framework in order to, you know, bring this goal into a reality.
Yeah. ABE, as we now call it, ABE Global, we are from the UK. We are a skills development organization, and this year we celebrate 50 years of delivering exceptional education across the globe. We have over 1.5 million graduates and alumni who would have completed this qualification. ABE has a clear social mission. We are a pathway in our own right. There are many students who would have not been able to access university, maybe because of, let's say here in Kenya, their KCSE grades. It didn't allow them to get into university.
Yeah.
Or maybe we have a student who just wanted a different route. ABE offers qualifications and skills in business management, human resource management, and marketing management. We are leaders and pioneers in the study of entrepreneurship. Part of what we do, we have a kids MBA that teaches entrepreneurship to children between 11 and 16 years old.
So you train a tree while it's still young, yeah?
Absolutely, because these are the children who would come up with some of the most impressive business ideas.
Okay.
But what they lack are the skills in terms of developing a business plan, doing management, patents, digital marketing, understanding the concepts of taxation. ABE in its Kids MBA delivers these skills to learners.
Okay, that's definitely well explained. And Boniface, the big question of the day is all to do with unemployment, because we have numbers being churned out of these institutions, whether universities or equally TVET institutions, who are looking for employment, and that seems to be the issue. So how exactly can skill-based training reduce unemployment, the unemployment numbers, especially amongst the youth in the country and the region?
It's a fact that due to modern societal and economic changes and dynamics, the societies are becoming highly competitive in terms of job opportunities. And this is partly because the world has become hyper-connected. We have shifted from hyper-local societies. A few years ago, when you were outstanding in your village, you would really receive a lot of accolades because you were the SI unit. People knew basically that achievement is what they can see in their locality. Nowadays, we are competing with people globally. Now, the way to navigate that kind of environment is to have the right skills and to be a thought leader in a particular area. And this is where TVET education comes in, because as opposed to academic education, TVET drills individuals into becoming good in a particular area. So students are normally taught to be fixers. They can be able to get a job done in a specific domain. And in skill-based training is where we have different models of teaching, from classroom, lecture-based, theory-based kind of training.
Okay.
So in this case, we would have pedagogy, such as student-centered learning, flipped classrooms, or even micro-teaching, where whatever students are expected to do after the education becomes part and parcel of what they are learning in class. We have seen a little bit of that in our CBC curriculum. And moving forward, this is what we would expect to see across the various curriculum. For instance, in the ABE setup, we have students being told to go to a company, investigate problems, and come up with solutions. Now, what that one does is to create ready-made reflexes in a student. When they complete the education and join the job market, they can be able to connect the dots and relate whatever they find over there with what they learned in classroom. Such a student has a better bargaining power when it comes to looking for employment, or even innovation in terms of coming up with ideas to start their own businesses. So TVET education that is skill-based or that is industry-centered can be a very good tool for bridging the unemployment gap.
Okay, that's well explained. And perhaps as you come in, Carissa, let's talk about how exactly we're preparing students, perhaps in ABE Global, to meet the demands of the current job market.
I want to take a step back, because when we think about TVET education has always been associated with just things like engineering or woodwork or these things, carpentry, these kinds of things, and they're usually classed as lower level skills or not held in the same esteem as an academic. When we talk about ABE as specialists in business management, human resource management, marketing management, entrepreneurship, these are a technology. Businesses that don't focus on these skills are weakening their own infrastructure. That infrastructure in terms of their management capacity, their capacity to grow. When we talk about TVET education and ABE focuses on transferable skills. The transferability of these skills are honed in our assessment methodologies, in our approach to training students in problem solving. And when we go into business, they're not looking at, can you define? I just delivered a training session to about 50 educators and marketers from different universities and colleges here in Kenya. That's why we ran. We just delivered that training. And I was saying to them, you don't get asked in the world of work, can you define this qualification? It is not done. You're never asked to give a definition. You're asked to solve a problem. And as we look at TVET education, we really want to change the narrative. This is not just for what we would call the skills in carpentry or engineering or these things, but really, business management, human resource management, marketing management, they fit into this space. Because no matter what type of business you're doing, you need managers. So the investment with ABE Global into education is there. ABE operates across the region. I'm coming in from Ghana. Before that, I was in Zambia. Before that, I was in Botswana. We are in Malawi. Malawi is huge. Now I'm here in Kenya and I'm heading to the UK. Across Africa, we are seeing that high demand for quality leaders in business.
Okay. And this is where ABE Global comes in.
And ABE Global is the premier awarding organization that delivers this type of training.
Well noted. And Boniface, if you could kindly keep it brief because of time, we would like to understand the impact of collaborations and partnerships in terms of the implementation of this skill-based training, not just in the country, but in the African marketplace as well. What role do these partnerships and collaborations actually play?
Very important. Different people have different learning methodologies. There are those people who are good in doing and seeing. There are those people who are good in memory and remembrance and all that. Looking at our 2022 KCSE graduates, for instance, as a case study, we had a whole, out of 880 81,000 candidates, only 173,000 scored a C+ and above, and therefore will be joining university. The rest scored below that. Now, these are people who are gifted in different ways and would want to be exposed in different learning methodologies. Now, this is where industry comes in, because the gap that we've been having is where there is a disconnect between what is being taught in class and what the student will face once they go to the company. But in industry-based training, the companies are part and parcel of the curriculum development and also delivery. So that at some point, students will have to go and do a certain learning outcome within the company setup itself. So that way, they are able to relate the concepts that they are being taught with what they will do with those concepts once they complete their studies.
Well, you've dotted the I's and crossed the T's in terms of the importance of partnerships.
Yeah.
So as we finalize, Carissa, in terms of what else does ABE offer the African labor market, apart from the mainstream diploma courses and whatnot? So we definitely understand that there's an array of courses, and this is what we offer, so we can actually use them to plug in some of the challenges that he's highlighted as well, briefly.
In addition to our core qualifications, as I said, we have the ABE Kids MBA.
Yeah.
That teaches entrepreneurship from a very early age. If we have more entrepreneurs, we would have less pressure on the government purse for employment. That means they will be able to create jobs for themselves and others, so that will cascade. ABE also has what we call ABE endorsed. This is where we partner with local institutions who designed skills-based specific training that solves a need in market, and we certify that from the UK. So you get locally designed, locally delivered, but internationally recognized. We are also in our product development stages as we speak, and we have recently been acquired by the Leadership Institute. So ABE will be offering a new suite of programs that are currently being delivered. So you can reach out to us and get in touch to find out how you can get on board with ABE.
Well, this is really proper, and what sticks out in terms of what you've mentioned, it's internationally recognized. So you might get the skills and training right here in Kenya, but it can be applicable across the globe. So the potential is definitely limitless, if I can use it that way. It's up to us to tap into it, and that's how ABE Global is coming into this whole discussion. Briefly, 30 seconds or so, final comment.
My final comment is that our society is evolving. We see more and more of our youths going for job opportunities outside the country. Right now, we are talking about labor export. And I believe having the right curriculum that prepares our youths to be globally competitive is the best way to help them as they navigate the labor market. Finally, our ABE curriculum is delivered in many colleges, both private and public. And if any of the colleges would want to plug in, then they can always reach out to us.
No, definitely. Asanteni sana for your time. We
you.
definitely appreciate your input right here, all to do with TVET and the journey to bring skill-based learning to be, held in the same status as academic learning. Asanteni sana for your time. Boniface Kamau, ABE Global Manager, Kenya and Tanzania, and Carissa Carrington, who's the Director, ABE Global Africa and the Caribbean. So look forward to more discussions around skill-based training